Welcome to episode 4 of Shalom's Generation to Generation podcast. I am Lonnie Goldsmith, the editor of TC Jewfolk, joined as always by Shalom educator Chris Kellogg. How are you, Chris?
I'm great. A little chilly today.
It is. Welcome to winter in Minnesota. Today we are joined by Heidi Weinberg. Heidi is the owner of Live to Thrive and a personal trainer who is the only certified Delay the Disease instructor in Minnesota. Heidi, thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
First of all, tell us a little bit about what the Delay the Disease program is and how did you first get involved with being an instructor?
I became a personal trainer about 7 years ago and started my new career at the YMCA. When I first started, a woman had signed up her husband with me 3 days a week, and he was 74 years old with Parkinson's disease. And at the time, I was a brand new trainer, never met anybody with Parkinson's disease before in my life. Started to do all kinds of research about how to help this man. His main symptom was falling, and a lot of people with Parkinson's fall backwards instead of forwards, and that's called retropulsion. And that was his main symptom, along with the usual stuff like the shuffling of the gait and stiffness. But she was very concerned about him falling when she wasn't around and not being able to get up, which had happened a couple weeks prior to her signing him up with me. So I did a lot of research on it, started helping him and working with him 3 days a week, and within 3-4 months, his symptoms started to turn around, and I thought that was just the coolest thing ever. And also, in the fitness center, when I was training him, people would come up to me afterwards and ask me if he had Parkinson's disease. And I said yes, and they would say my brother, my uncle, my sister, my friend, everything. And I had no idea that it was that prevalent. And so I continued to do research on it and found out that there was, you can get certified in it in Ohio. And I'm from Ohio. So it just worked out. My daughter went to Ohio State, and their headquarters of Delay the Disease is 5 minutes off campus. So I just combined it with a trip to see my daughter and looked into the certification course and went to Ohio to get certified. And I'm still the only one in Minnesota with this certification. As soon as I got the certification, the number of Parkinson's clients that I was training went up to at least 80% of my clientele, maybe
Wow.
85.
So does Minnesota not offer that certification yet? Is that why
The only way to get certified in it is to go to Ohio,
Okay.
to Columbus, or to bring Jackie and David Zid up here, who are the founders of the program,
Okay.
to bring them to you, which is pretty expensive. So as far as I know, people have looked into it here, but have not done it due to the cost.
Oh. So it's an evidence-based training program that this couple did the research and the science on to develop?
Right, and they're constantly having new studies that they are pioneering to see how this exercise can improve function for people with Parkinson's.
Well, and that sort of carries over to our those who come to our sessions, which is about helping your aging parents age in place and how important being physically capable is. So can you talk a little bit about how you see that transferring over to just working with people who are aging and the normal health issues?
Yes, when people get older, the number one thing you need to be concerned about that affects people's ability to be independent is the loss of muscle mass as you get older, which happens to everybody unless you offset it with lifting weights or doing some certain kinds of body type exercises. So I tell everybody who wants to stay functional as they get older that exercise is just the number one. Absolutely number one, and not just for muscle mass, but also it correlates to a whole bunch of things, how you're going to function, what your health span is going to be versus your lifespan. You want your health span to be almost as long as your lifespan, ideally, so you don't live too many years in sickness and needing help. It also correlates to loss of power and loss of function as you get older.
Even simple things like being able to drive a car. If you
Right.
are flexible, you can drive your car longer because you can turn your head.
Right.
Yeah.
That's things that unfortunately need to be worked on as you get older, or you just, use it or lose it. So rotational movements, and that correlates to Parkinson's as well, because they're very rigid, tend to be pretty rigid due to the Parkinson's. And so we incorporate lots of turning and rotation and gait training, and anyone actually can benefit from those types of exercises, which is going to help prevent falls and keep you out of the hospital and nursing homes and places that you don't want to be.
Well, and I can think about that right now with the weather, with the icy roads, the icy sidewalks. That's the scariest thing for people's parents is going outside in the winter.
Right, and it creates a vicious cycle, because if you're trying to avoid falling and then you don't go outside because you're scared of falling, then you're moving less, and then you get weaker, and then you have a higher risk of falls. So it's this vicious circle unless you have to get in there and kind of turn that around.
So how much work do you typically do a week with somebody who has Parkinson's? How many sessions? How often are they in? Are there things that they can do that you give them to do when they're not working with you? It's it would seem to be sort of a constant, daily thing that they should.
Yeah,
be doing.
it should be daily. Getting your heart rate up with the Parkinson's is absolutely key. The loss of dopamine in the brain is what kind of drives Parkinson's. And most people, they don't get any symptoms of Parkinson's until they've lost at least 80% of their dopamine in their brain. So getting your heart rate up, and this is also true for people without Parkinson's disease, helps your dopamine, to keep the dopamine working that you have left. And also, when you get your heart rate up, your brain is primed to create new neural connections in your brain. And that is a prime time when your heart rate is up to create new habits, new good habits, or to practice your weakness, is what they call it, and delay the disease. And practicing your weakness can be anything in Parkinson's that you have trouble with, including balance, rotation, gait training, multitasking, any of those issues. The best time to practice is after you get your heart rate up. And by the way, this also can apply to even people like in college. If you're going to take an exam, you should get your heart rate up. Research says you should get your heart rate up within 2 hours of taking the exam, because your brain will work better.
Really?
During your exam, and you'll do better. So it's getting your heart rate up is just proven to be. And working with somebody like me or being in a class, you're going to get your heart rate up more than you would on your own. That's just the way it is. So working with somebody will push you that extra level to help you control your symptoms and age better.
Interesting. So when your parents say, "Oh, I'm not moving, I want to age in place," and you talk to them about how are you going to be successful, and one of the things you're doing is contrasting that retirement village, home, whatever, that has all these classes versus now you've got to go out and find them. If you're going to stay home and live in your home, you got to go out and find the resources.
Right. And the other thing I try to tell people, and even people who are middle-aged and older, is your health is an investment, not an expense. You need to invest in your health just like you invest in your retirement financially. It's the same thing. You should be putting them both at the same level of importance in your plan for getting older.
Interesting.
Yeah, that's so. Now, how do you try to convince? I'm not sure that's the right word, but let's go with it. The person who's either staying at home but not doing anything physically, or somebody who's just moved into some sort of retirement community, but also doesn't want to get up, and they're either stubborn, as we know sometimes people can be, or, just don't think they have the ability to do these types of physical programs to help them. How do you help convince them otherwise? Because I'm sure you've run into that. I'm sure people have been signed up maybe against their will for a class because a caregiver knows that that's in their best interest.
Right. I have had some people come to me on their own, too, who just know that have always despised exercise and getting sweaty or feeling uncomfortable. But because they're getting older, they feel like they need to do it, and they hate every second that they're with me. But it is something that I think that people need to do. You can also find something that you like to do, or at least tolerate the most, like the most to do, and go with that. So try different modes of exercise to see what you like the best, and just find something that you will stick with. If something is always better than nothing. I also can point to certain people who I've worked with in the past who were pretty, I don't want to say debilitated, or pretty like
limited
in their movements and things. And just working with me once a week and then doing little stuff on their own that I prescribe some homework for them would help them just keep their function as they're getting older, to help themselves, but also to help their caregivers. And so they can stay somewhat functional as long as possible.
So actually a caregiver who is frustrated, having a hard time with, say, an older parent because they're just getting more and more limited in what they're able to do, maybe that caregiver should consider some kind of working with a trainer or something like that to just even improve their ability to get out of the chair and go across the room.
Right. I had a woman who brought her mother to me. She was 92 years old, had Parkinson's disease, was in a wheelchair, and she brought her to me, and we just did little stand up, sit down, walk sideways, holding onto a bar, walk back, little things to keep her. All she wanted was to be able to take her mother out of, she actually lived at Shalom. Yeah. She wanted her to be able to take her mother out and not have to carry her. If she had to carry her, physically carry her in and out of the car, lift her, she couldn't do that. Yeah. Or take her to the bathroom and have to pick her up to put her on the toilet and then put her back in the chair. She didn't want to have to do that. So she brought her to me, and all she wanted was her to be able to keep being able to stand up on her own and turn around and sit down on the toilet, transfer herself basically, maybe with a little bit of help, from the wheelchair to the car or the wheelchair to the toilet and back. And she, her mother unfortunately passed away last year, and the daughter left me a voicemail last March letting me know that she had passed away and thanking me for giving her quality of life and helping her with her mother for the past 2 years, and that it was much better because she went to see me.
And I think that's, you used, I think, really important words there, quality of life. And not just in the example you used, but I think for anybody who, as they're aging, that they want to stay in their own place and don't want to have to go somewhere, a program, any exercise program, can help build that quality of life and give them more of it as they age. And that's something that I'm not sure people necessarily consider. Right? Right.
Yeah. It'll give you that quality of life that you desire and keep you out of places, like I said, that you don't want to go, and also be helpful to your kids.
Yes.
Or any caregiver, your spouse, somebody who's going to have to take care of you. So, and then who wants to? I always say you either pay now or you pay later. Right. So if you're going to pay now and you want that quality of life, then go exercise. And it doesn't have to be really expensive, but go find something you like and go do it. And if it costs money, it costs money. It's an investment in your future. Otherwise, you're going to be paying, what's your option? You're going to get weaker and weaker and end up having to hire somebody to come into your house to help you get dressed and bathe in the morning. And who wants that?
Right.
So my view is you you invest now or you're investing later,
Right.
so it's the same money. You might as well,
Oh no, it'll
take your
probably be
power
more
back.
money later
Probably.
if you have to wait, given the very colorful
Right.
example you gave
Yeah.
us.
Well, and
Yeah.
also, in the meantime, you have great quality of life for years.
Yeah.
Because it really does improve your ability to enjoy life.
Right. You want to keep doing, the goal is to keep doing what you want to be doing.
Right.
Yeah.
And things that you like. And there's 3 levels. It's either you just increase your function, you're able to do what you like to do, and then things that you would ideally want to do in the
Right.
future. And that might include travel or, I don't know, taking care of your grandkids, that you're still able to do that physically.
And I think, for people who have older parents or grandparents, even people who are sort of into their, 80s, 90s even, it may just be as simple as being able to, get up and go to a meal without being in pain or discomfort.
Right.
It really can be the very little basics that you need to do to get through the day that something like this can make less painful and less awkward to do.
Right. It's just going to, like we keep saying, quality of life and being able to do what you want to do
Yes.
instead of feeling like a victim. And who wants to feel like a victim?
That's right.
This is a way to take control of what you can take control of, which a lot of life is out of our control. But what I say is, life happens. Let's say you get into a car accident or you get sick or something like that. It's way better for you to go into something like that strong. If you go in weak, you're going to come out, think of how you're going to come out the other side.
Yeah.
You're going to be able to handle life's setbacks and life's complications way better if you're strong.
So how do you help people realize that, that this is taking control of their life? Do you have a spiel that you like to give them, I don't want to say sales pitch, but but you are running a business. But is there something that you tell them to sort of really underscore and, drive the point home that this is something that's like really important to them?
Well, for people with Parkinson's disease in particular, if you get on the exercise as soon as you get diagnosed, the earlier the better. It's never too late, but the earlier and the sooner you get on it, the better. Your symptoms can be delayed or even reversed with the right kind of exercise, and you have to be committed to it. It has to be intense. It's not going to be comfortable. It's going to be uncomfortable. But you can absolutely delay your symptoms by many years. If you come to me with a certain symptom, many of them are actually more habits than symptoms. So one of those include the posture, the stoop posture that you see, even with older adults or with Parkinson's. Another one is the shuffling gait. So those kind of things can be worked on and improved or reversed. Or in the case of Parkinson's, if you get diagnosed and you're not doing those things yet, you should get on it so you don't do those things.
Yes.
It can be prevented if you have the right kind of exercise and you do it often enough to train your brain, like we talked about before, getting the heart rate up to a certain amount and then practicing that. And even if you're not shuffling yet, you can get into the gym or even at home, practice taking big steps. Because if you're taking 10,000 steps a day, which is what we all hear all the time, that's great. But if they're all little steps, what are you getting good at?
Right.
Shuffling.
Yeah, shuffling. So you want to take 10,000 big steps a day, and then your brain is going to realize, oh, this is the way I'm supposed to be walking. So
it's retraining yourself in a
Right.
lot of ways.
Right.
Which has to be, I would think, a hard thing for somebody who's aging, who, and to them, they know how to walk. They've been doing it their whole lives. The idea of retraining at a certain age, gotta imagine it might be a blow to their pride a little bit. How do you help them get past that?
Little baby steps in terms of stepping stones or little mini goals, I should say. So let's step over this block 10 times backwards and forwards and see if you can not cheat by going around it with your foot, but going over it with both feet. And then when that's achieved, let's move it to the next level. Then this all ties into fall prevention.
Okay. So
learning how to remember how to pick up your feet when you walk so you're not going to trip over something.
Well, I think these are fantastic tips and suggestions, and obviously created quite the niche for people with Parkinson's, but also I think can be certainly a help to all people who are aging and need just a little bit of physical fitness to help motivate.
Just a little push.
To keep the quality of life where they want it to be.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Well, Heidi Weinberg, thank you very much for joining us this week. These are fantastic tips, and we appreciate you joining us.
Thank you for having me.
The Generation to Generation podcast is sponsored by Shalom Home and produced by Jewfolk Inc. For more information, go to shalom.com, that's SHOLOM.com, or tcjewfolk.com/podcast.